Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Kim, and just had an article come out about Anaheim Union High School District and our Korean American Studies course through this article. So big congratulations to Dr. Brian Ahn from Columbia University who wrote this article. The topic was Empowering Anaheim, Igniting Civic Engagement and Social Justice Through Innovative Staff Development. I'm going to go ahead and read through the abstract of this article first, and then I'm going to stop at various points to highlight various aspects of this article on igniting civic engagement through our Korean American Studies class. So here's the abstract. This paper explores how Asian American Teachers Course Initiative and the Anaheim Union High School District strategies in teaching and community involvement advance social justice and combat anti-Asian violence in Orange County, California, utilizing systems theory and informal and incidental learning theory. This study examines the effectiveness of AUHD's efforts. Findings reveal that the teachers' approach effectively addresses discrimination, while AUHSD's innovative curriculum partnerships promote inclusivity and equity. The research underscores the education's critical role in being informed and inclusive communities. And I think this is a big topic for a lot of schools. How do we create that inclusivity, and how do we bring in that equity pedagogy as well? So first of all, I had a pleasure of meeting with Dr. Brian Ahn earlier when he actually wrote another article on leadership in Orange County among Asian American leaders, and he looked at leaders through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and somehow I also got to be a part of that. I was the youngest person in that group, but so honored to meet other Asian American leaders in our own community making a huge difference. So he had written a paper on that previous. So this is his next paper now on this Korean American Studies class. He begins in his introduction by talking about the journey of civil rights and civic engagement by beginning with African American and the African American community. Also talks about Native Americans, Latino Americans, and then it moves on into Asian Americans. And what we saw in 2020, the surge in anti-Asian racism, and also the COVID-19 pandemic coming in together, and then our response to that very difficult situation happening in our community and country, in Anaheim Union High School District, addressing that social justice issue by developing the first Korean American Ethnic Studies course for high school students in the United States, where students would have the opportunity to know their own story and tell their story, listen to each other's story with empathy and respect, and do something good with their story, that civic engagement piece, where students identify something that they care about and then do something about it. Once again, this is coming out of Anaheim Union High School District because of the leadership that we have in this district under Superintendent Michael Matsuda, and all our instructional programs that are geared toward helping students to become their unlimited you. This includes the CPSF framework, the Career Preparedness Systems framework, the democracy schools that we have all across Anaheim Union High School District, becoming the first democracy school district, the 5 C's, using communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and the most important C, compassion, to integrate that into the curriculum so that students are leaving with those soft skills and learning a lot more than just the content. And then, of course, the partnership with AIM, which is the Anaheim Innovative Mentorship Experience, which incorporates an opportunity for students to get real-world experience through internships. So this paper does look at the work of the Korean American Studies course and its work in also combating and addressing some of the anti-Asian violence through civic engagement, and really student civic engagement. Students identifying topics that they're interested in and then doing something about it. So I see that title there, Research Project Collaboration. So there was a collaboration beforehand by looking at Asian American leaders, as I mentioned earlier, AANHPI leaders from the 70s, 60s, and 50s, from all different Asian American groups. The Asian Americans are not a monolith, but they're very different. The Korean American story is very different from the Japanese American story and Chinese American story, and yet there's a lot of similarities too, though different. And so it was a chance to hear their impact in the community, these Asian American leaders, and I was very honored to be a part of that work. Let's see, historical context of AAH NHPI challenges, and so some historical roots of why the situation is occurring today in 2020. You can't talk about 2020 without talking about 1882, where Chinese were excluded from the United States, including women, or the 1924 restriction on Asian immigration, the Japanese internment, and so forth. So many acts of discrimination, particularly toward Asian Americans, but it was more than just Asian Americans. This is where you see the connections and intersections with other groups as well, as they faced some similar challenges. Now, while I say this, sometimes there's this emphasis on the United States, but I think it's good to also note here that in other places around the world, there are also barriers and discriminations that happen, sometimes even worse. And so our story is not completely unique, but the way we respond to it can be a promising practice potentially. Anyways, we responded to this surge in anti-Asian racism by launching the first Korean American ethnic studies course in the United States. This was following the surge, but also the Atlanta spa shootings in 2021, which really solidified like my resolve to say, I really feel like we need to grow empathy in our community, and a part of growing empathy is knowing their stories. And so students have the opportunity to engage in their own stories and to look at other historical figures like Colonel Young-Ok Kim or Dr. Sammy Lee or An Chang-ho and see their contributions to the United States, to see these stories of resilience, and to curate some of this in a virtual museum where they could be proud of their heritage and connection to the intersections and connection between other groups as well as their own to the United States. And then in doing so, creating community projects that promoted healing and personal growth for them, but also benefited the community as well. This approach was recognized in many spaces, including NBC and higher education, and I was very fortunate actually to have the support of higher education. So the Korean Consulate of the Republic of Korea gathered educators together to also look at the Model Ethnic Studies curriculum, and this is where I saw many of the lessons that could be valuable for that work. Dr. Grace Cho also brought scholars together. I got to be a part of that in creating some of the supplementary materials to support the Model Ethnic Studies curriculum so that they're ready to go for teachers to use, which I did use. Many of those lessons I did use to create the Korean American Studies course. In fact, I would say that without seeing those courses, I don't know if I would have had the ability to do it on my own, because once again, growing up, I did not have a chance to really get to know my own story. So seeing this at least gave me a starting point, and then of course we built so much more on top of what was initially created. So this has been AUHSD's experience with social justice. Dr. An goes back to 2012, when Anaheim was shaken by two separate police incidents, shootings that affected members of the heavily Latino immigrant population. This sparked all kinds of things happening. But some of the good that came out of that very difficult situation was Mayor Tom Tate of Anaheim and Superintendent Matsuda of AUHSD took a proactive stance to address the root issue, which was a lack of hope among many of our students, especially those who are economically challenged. And so they gathered together, and with that gathering led to the creation of the AIM program. This AIM program gave students the opportunity to connect with mentors and corporate and nonprofit sectors, offering invaluable career insights, and has grown to over 300 paid internships every year across Orange County. It's become a model for mentorships and internships in many different spaces. So building on, like, once again, all these different approaches, including the Civic Learning Institute and being the civic lead and civic coach for Anaheim Union High School District, where we help build community, amplify student voice, and taking compassionate action. Like all these different folks, including curriculum specialist Ruben Patino, Steve Little, working together to and building upon this good work. This was also integrated into the course as well. And so, and then in addition, more that we're kind of embedding into the course was, because this could have been a Korean American Studies course where they just learn facts and take a multiple choice test, but we definitely we're integrating the 5 C's and integrating it into the CPSF as well So that was also a part of the course, integrating all the different instructional drivers that help Anaheim be what Anaheim is today in terms of like being an instructional leader, the design of the performance task assessments, and so forth. Now, when you look at the CPSF, it does include things like civic learning and engagement, the 5 C's, real world experiences, the aims. So all these things, once again, could be integrated into this Korean American Studies course. As we look at the conceptual framework here, the systems approach, once again, yes, this is one Korean American Studies course, but it's interconnected with a system that is moving kids toward workforce development, career preparedness systems framework with the hard skills, but also the soft skills as well. And of course, identity being a part of that, and understanding community and knowing how to bring about positive change. So at the very emergence of this course, even before this course, we had days of dialogue where students had the opportunity to talk about issues that were challenging for them. And so when we saw the surge in anti-Asian racism, where was the space for students to voice their opinions? Well, we created that space through days of dialogue where the community had a chance to gather together, including educators, some educators who may not have been experiencing the same thing, but having the opportunity to listen to students, I think, impacted them as well. And furthermore, their instruction, the way they connect with students. Also, our work with California Democracy Schools, that had a huge impact as well. I think that's the school bell for lunch. So I should be wrapping up this as well. That helped to develop the civic learning and engagement, the civic engagement piece, which then allowed us to also partner with some other groups, including the Invent to Prevent group, which is connected with the Department of Homeland Security, to foster a curricula that fostered empathy, dialogue, historical awareness, stories of resilience, in other words, many, many different events, which we're continuing on to this year and continues on today. So appreciative of Dr. Brian On, Columbia University, to tell our story and how our Korean American Studies came to be and how it's integrated into a bigger system, which then allows the applicability of our Korean American Studies to be applied beyond Korean American Studies to so many other spaces, not just ethnic studies spaces, but other content areas where students have the opportunity to think about their identity, amplify their voice, and engage with their community. So congratulations, Dr. Brian On. Dr. Jeff, signing out.